Hello, and welcome to the Be Purely Balanced podcast. I'm Dr. Crystal Couture, and today I'm here with Caitlin Marino, who is a light worker and herbalist. She was born with the gifts of clairvoyance and mediumship, which she combines with her many years of training in the healing arts to craft individualized sessions for each of her clients. Caitlin was first introduced to energy healing in 2006 when it saved her life. She has dedicated the past 12 plus years to studying, teaching, and practicing the methods that healed her. As she knows, they have the power to help others. She is passionate about helping others integrate energy work and herbalism into their everyday lives in practical ways. She owns a home in Newburyport, Massachusetts, but currently lives a nomadic lifestyle and frequently travels between Los Angeles, Naples, Florida, and Newburyport, Massachusetts. Her sessions are conducted over the phone. Private in-person sessions may be arranged upon request. Her work is dedicated to the benefit of all with pure intention. Hello, Caitlin.
Hi, Crystal.
It's great to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
So we have the pleasure of chatting about Reiki today. More and more people have heard of Reiki as the years go on, which is super exciting for the energy healing world. For the purposes of getting to know you, what is Reiki in your eyes?
So the definition of Reiki in Japanese is that it's universal life force energy. And life force energy being chi, which most people have heard of, the Chinese word chi. So it's a really simple yet powerful energy that promotes relaxation, balance, harmony, alignment, and can remove energetic blockages. It can do no harm. It's safe for anybody to use. You can never give too much or too little of it. And it addresses physical, emotional, and energetic issues. It can be used for self-care, self-practice, or to assist others. And you can use it alone or in conjunction with any other modality to enhance the benefits of what you're doing. And you can use it to empower goals and intentions. But what it is fundamentally is what we're already made of, what's already animating us, that universal life energy and chi that is already inside of us. So it's really just the practice of accessing that energy and directing it or using it with the intention that it will promote benefit for people.
Beautiful. I love the ancient aspect of Reiki. I love that, as you were just kind of giving that description, I felt like this universal energy is an energy that healers and medicine men and women have been sharing for so long. And that seems really powerful to me.
Yeah, and it's really fundamental. It's part of who we already are. So it's kind of just attuning yourself to that vibration and opening yourself up to receiving it in an infinite kind of way. We can have the access to it.
Beautiful. So your personal healing journey is what led you to become a healer. And it would be really an honor for you to share your story with our listeners today.
So, my story is a little bit dramatic, actually. When I was 25 years old, I went out with some friends in Boston one night, and my friend and I were actually drugged at a bar. And we weren't the only people who were that night. I had other friends there as well. And we were lucky because my sister noticed right away what was happening, and she took us home immediately. And in the weeks that followed that incident, my health began to decline rapidly. And I wasn't at that time really associating what was happening with my health to that event. But I was losing weight, and I was having digestive symptoms, neurological symptoms, cardiac and cognitive symptoms. And they were progressing. So my systems of my body were basically failing. They were shutting down. And I was bounced around to some of Boston's best doctors. I was lucky to be in the Boston area at that time. I was seeing physicians, specialists, having testing in and out of emergency rooms, and nothing was coming back. They could see what was happening to my body, but they could not find the root cause of it. So it was getting kind of dire. My timeline was short, and my mother took me from an emergency room to a holistic health clinic where I had an emergency appointment with a naturopathic doctor. And she helped me very quickly. I didn't get better very quickly, but she helped. I was headed towards a coma, I believe, and she helped to shift that for me with some homeopathy and herbal supplements very quickly, actually. And then I, wasn't dying anymore. I wasn't rapidly getting, sicker, but I wasn't healing either. I wasn't getting better fast enough. And I was stalled. My progress was stalled. I had to leave my job, and it was an ordeal. But she referred me to a woman who was an occupational therapist. She also did massage therapy, and she did Reiki. She did another form of energy healing as well. And I got up on her table without saying a word about what had been going on for me. I said, I've been talking about this. I don't have the energy to even describe my journey here to you or my symptoms. And she said, just get up on the table, which I did. And she just started working. I had no idea what she did or was doing to me. But after probably 5 to 10 minutes, I was drenched in sweat, and I asked her if she could please turn off the heat on the table. And she said, this table is not heated. That is your body's response to the work I'm doing. So I asked her what she was doing, and she explained a little bit about Reiki to me. But by the end of the session, I felt better than I had in 6 months. This ordeal had taken about 6 months to get me to her office, and I had rosy cheeks. I was really, really thin at this point and very sick. And I went back the next day and the next day, and I just kept going because it was the only thing that helped me. I didn't need to have a diagnosis, or, I didn't need to. I continued with my medical care, and I would advise that anybody do that who is in my situation. But while I was doing that, I was healing. I was working on healing with this energy work. And I made a decision that if I survived the illness, that I would dedicate my life to learning the modalities that helped me. And I would practice and teach them to others so I could help people. So that's my story of how I arrived.
Wow.
As a Reiki master. Yeah.
Wow, it's so powerful to hear your story and what you went through. So from start to finish, how long did it take?
It took me about 5 to 6 months before I actually sought out alternative modalities. And at that point, I was desperate, really desperate. The situation was bad. And from that point, the first session, I felt an improvement. It did take me about a year and a half to get better. And during that time, it's interesting how many people we heard from my family who had family members or friends who had gone through similar ordeals. I never got a diagnosis from my medical doctors for my condition. I got a lot of explanations from the naturopath and from the energy workers that I started working with and learning from. But it took probably about like a year and a half for me to really regain my health. I was going downhill really fast when I got sick initially.
So what would you say was the greatest transformation that happened through this process of you, becoming so ill that you were really facing terminal situation to finding health again? What was the biggest transformation, whether it be emotional or intellectual or spiritual?
Hmm. I mean, I think anybody that was a near-death experience for me. The conversations I was having with my parents about what to do if I slipped into a coma, and that kind of gives you a perspective
Yeah.
that only people who have been through that. You have to experience that to know it, and it may not come that way for other people. It may come in other ways, but what it did for me was completely redirect my life. It changed the entire course of my life, and I feel like I had hit rock bottom. It took a physical illness for that to be the case for me. And then I had purpose after that, and I had a mission. I have been dedicated. I had never experienced illness like that before, and the fact that that could happen and that the medical system wasn't helping me was terrifying at the time.
Yeah.
But I found this incredible, I found Reiki, but I found all of these incredible methods that can restore health and can fill in the blanks where the medical system fails us in a lot of cases. So it gave me purpose. It gave me a lot of knowledge. It shifted my paradigm and perspective on life. And I feel like it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. Looking back, it was the hardest thing I've ever been through and the most incredibly rewarding and amazing journey. It's changed my life. So.
Yeah. That dichotomy is just so big and so powerful when we see how these moments of complete tragedy in one way are so transformative and so positive in another.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So how is it possible that Reiki and energy healing are powerful enough to physically heal our bodies?
So we have bodies. We are not bodies. We have energy fields that are made up of very complex energetic anatomy, and our bodies sit at the center of these energy fields. And when we ensoul in this life, the energy field connects to the body in all of these very intricate ways. We have chakras, we have a core, we have aura, we have a bunch of anatomy, and it's all made up of light and vibration. So this is why sound and light healing and energy work is so powerful, because this is what we are at the most subtle and fundamental level. So this healing that we do with light and sound can impact us on the most subtle and fundamental levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're made of. That's what we are.
Yeah, this idea that, we have a body, we are not simply this tangible body is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the concept of subtle energy, as you mentioned, it seems to be becoming more and more known, and people are tapping into these energies in lots of different ways. There's lots of, different modalities for them to get in tune with themselves. So how can Reiki really enhance the process of expanding consciousness and expanding that tuned in sensation?
Yeah, so Reiki allows us to sync up when we're out of balance and alignment. And it's shedding light, it's bringing light in where there is blockage or darkness or unawareness. So what it does is, as it comes in, it's increasing your vibration. And as your vibration increases, your energy field expands. As your energy field expands, you're gaining consciousness. You're waking up. There's a really good book I wanted to mention called Power versus Force by David R. Hawking. And he has what's called a map of consciousness, which is a relationship between your vibratory rate and your level of consciousness. And as your vibration increases, as you bring in this energy, your consciousness expands, so does your energy field. It's all related.
So I love the way that you shared this. Your perspective is different, and talking about energy, talking about vibration, talking about consciousness on really a daily basis. It's fun to hear new perspectives. So I'm getting this sense that I really want to ask you, what is the vision that you get? What is the insight that you get as you see the subtle energy enhancing, as you see the vibration shifting in someone?
That can be different for everybody. I mean, that is a one-on-one type of basis. It really depends. It's different for everyone. And that doesn't necessarily just happen from energy work. You can read a book and have a moment of awakening and expand your consciousness greatly. With energy work, when someone's on the Reiki table, it could look like tears after a session that aren't out of sadness. They're just like a profound realization or opening, or just having an experience of the energy that I see a lot of people who don't know what Reiki is, who have never had energy work, and they're not even sure why they're there. Mm-hmm. And they don't think they can have an experience of it. They don't necessarily believe it's going to work. And when they do, it's profound for them. Just that it can be that simple. They feel warmth in their chest and they didn't think they'd feel anything. And for other people, they may be working with serious physical illness and they see that that's actually, you can heal it. Or an emotional trauma that they've been working on for years in therapy, and it's ready to really let go and heal the root, so they don't have to work on it in therapy anymore. It's really different for everyone, but it always looks like an expansion of the energy field to me, as opposed to a contraction. It always looks like an expansion. It could be a sigh, a deep breath, a relaxation in the body, tears. It's very subtle work, but it's very powerful.
Yeah. One of the coolest things about Reiki, right, is that we all have access to this energy, and that anyone can learn to perform Reiki with, of course, some education, right? And maybe not everyone wants to become a practitioner, but there are some pretty potent self-healing benefits that can come from learning Reiki. So I'm just curious if you'd like to share a little bit more about that.
Yes, and this is really important to me. I'm passionate about this. Reiki 1 is all that you need to practice self-Reiki. That is a skill that you will have for the rest of your life. And it's an investment in yourself. It's very reasonably priced. You can get a Reiki 1 training for $150, $250. I think it should be taught in schools. I think teachers should be attuning kindergarten kids to Reiki, so that if they're having emotional upset or they're uncomfortable in situations, they can just start Reikiing themselves. It can be used for anything. When I did my Reiki 1 training, my Reiki master had me do a 30-day cleanse, and within the first week, I had eliminated an insomnia pattern that I had had my whole life. And it was just part of how I was in the world. I wasn't expecting that would ever shift for me. But it can help with anxiety, stress, dentist appointments, difficult conversations. You can Reiki goals. You can empower goals with Reiki. So if you want to buy a house, or you want a promotion at work or a new job, you can use Reiki for yourself to empower your goals. It's an easy tool that you can make work in your life, and it brings a lot of ease.
I love that. I love this idea of, really 2 ideas that you brought up. One is teaching Reiki to every single kindergartner. I think this is one of the best ideas I've ever heard. It's
I know. It would be
Yeah,
so helpful.
it would be amazing. It would be absolutely wonderful. And the other one is this idea of empowering goals with Reiki, because goals are just an extension of us, right? And they're just an extension of our energy into some form of manifestation. So I love how you mentioned this sort of teaser about empowering your goals with Reiki.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you don't have to be a practitioner or even want to be a healer, like you said. I've used it at day jobs in the past that are difficult, where I have to write a difficult letter to a client. I'll Reiki the letter. You can weave this into your life in a very practical way, however works for you. You can use it with pets too. If you have a sick pet, you write their name down on a piece of paper and you can send them Reiki as well.
This is great. I think this idea of weaving a practicality, into life via the energy realms is awesome. And that's really what we're all seeking, because life is moving and there are many moving parts and facets and different bits that make us who we are, and different things that we all enjoy, right? So bringing Reiki in on a daily basis has a tremendous benefit.
It does. And it's simple. It doesn't need to be complicated or weird. You just use it as a tool and it brings ease. Why not?
So, with your clients, do you encourage them to practice Reiki between sessions with themselves?
My students, definitely. If anybody's taken a Reiki 1 or has a Reiki 1 certification they took with someone else who sees me, absolutely. You can use it. Your hint to use Reiki, and you don't always have to use it when you're having a difficult time, but anytime you're having difficulty, that's a hint to use Reiki. If you have that attunement and the training, you use it then. All that is a hint to you. It doesn't need to be a difficult situation. Things are difficult, but we can get through them more easily. I've seen miracles with this stuff, and it's such a simple tool.
Well, you yourself are a miracle, and your transformation certainly into the work that you're offering to your clients is wonderful. It's just so divine.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm curious if you have a client story or two that you would like to share that just feels profound.
Well, I wanted to share actually a story about a dog, because I did share a little bit of my story. I did a session on a dog. I don't know if that's okay with you if I share it.
Totally.
So I had my family had a dog down in Florida. I wasn't living with my parents, but this was a couple years ago. And in Florida, in Naples, where they are, there are bufo frogs, which are foreign to Naples. They aren't from Naples, but they're poisonous to dogs. And they had a little Yorkshire Terrier who had an encounter with a bufo frog. And immediately she began foaming at the mouth. She was having like seizures and neurological symptoms. And my father, who luckily saw what happened, grabbed her and put her in the car and started driving her to the vet, who immediately, when they arrived, turned them away and said, "You have to get to the animal hospital with her." So they took her to the animal hospital. In the meantime, my mother called me and said, "Grace, the Yorkie, had an encounter with a bufo frog. This is what's happening." So I started Reiki, and I called 2 of my friends and asked them to Reiki as well. So she arrived at the emergency room. She's a 10-pound dog. And the doctor who greeted my parents said, "This is not, likely going to end well. She's a little dog, and most of the dogs who come in here are dead upon arrival. The ones who do survive are the larger dogs, because it takes the poison longer to circulate through their systems. They're usually 90 pounds. So, I'm sorry, 40 pounds or more. So my parents left her there at the vet, and within a few hours, the vet called my mom and said, "Come pick up your dog. She's fine. She's perfectly fine. She made it through. She's hungry and she's acting like herself, her feisty little self."
Whoa.
So they went and picked her up. I know it was like the doctor couldn't believe it. He's like, I don't know how this even happened. I have no words. I've never seen anything like this. So, I mean, she was home the same day. She was begging for treats, wagging her tail. And it was a miracle as far as I'm concerned. And the doctor as well, I guess, was very surprised with the outcome. So,
Wow.
my little pet Reiki story. I mean, I see things all the time with people, but it's kind of nice to know that it can benefit anybody, really.
Yeah. What an amazing, gift for you to be the facilitator in that instance for, essentially the family dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those dogs, they really get you, when they're sick or when they pass. It's difficult. You can't, communicate with them the same way you do with people. And it's an all emotional, the connection that we have with them. So it was really nice to have, feel like I had some control in a situation where a loved one was suffering, and I had some kind of tool and a way that I could hopefully influence the situation for the better. And it happened to work out. I've seen that a lot with Reiki, but
Yeah.
it's empowering, to have something that you can do to help.
I think about, this idea of, rather than being in the state of anxiety or worry when there is a loved one who's going through something, or when we ourselves are going through something, and instead of channeling that energy toward negative emotion, channeling that energy toward the light, and
Yeah.
how powerful that is.
That will change an experience, like from terror to light, like you said, to light. It's incredible. And to feel empowered around it instead of in fear is at least half the battle in those situations.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I'd love to just talk a little bit more, and we touched on this at the beginning. I'd love to talk a little bit more about this life force energy and how Reiki really supports this energy, this chi and vitality.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about chi, when we're thinking about our vitality, when we're thinking about life force energy, these terms can all be interchanged for, our purposes today. This is the energy that, runs through our body and gives us the sense of being, and gives us access to, being a soul within this physical body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
yeah. So how does Reiki really support that?
Reiki, I see Reiki as that. So I don't see it as really any different. It is universal life force. It is chi. So all we're doing when we practice Reiki, when you get an attunement, you're tuning into the highest vibration of that you can, that you get an attunement from your teacher in your lineage. And what that allows you to do is have this kind of infinite access to that energy and to direct it towards others. Now, how they choose, when I had my first Reiki session, my chi was very, very low. And for my practitioner to be able to bring it in for me and kind of amp me up energetically, whether you're helping someone recover from an illness, maintain a healthy balance if they're already feeling well, or transition out of their body, it helps them to do it in the light, like you were saying, instead of from a depleted place. So it's just replenishing the life force energy that we feel in our bodies, but it's also supplying our energy field. And like I said before, we are not our bodies. We have bodies. So a lot of the pathology that manifests in our physical bodies starts in the energy field. And if we work there, if we maintain our field, or if we treat from the root of the cause, which is your energy field for a lot of illnesses, not all, then you have a better outcome for health and well-being, wholeness, recovery. That is the stuff we're made of. Life force, energy. That's what animates us, that's what gives us life.
Yeah. So it goes without saying here, get to a Reiki level 1 class and start learning this. start learning how to be there for yourself and support, your life force and nourish the life force and be in the light.
Yes.
So, Caitlin, I'm curious if you might like to share a little bit of Reiki healing with our listeners today.
I would love to do that. I would absolutely love it.
Okay.
So I have a little crystal here, and I'm just going to set it up with distant Reiki. And for anybody who's listening who'd like to receive, I'm going to ask that this Reiki be to the greatest benefit of all, and sending with pure intention. And you can send as much or as little Reiki as you need to. Everybody will receive exactly what they need to receive. So I do these little mini sessions when I'm running out the door, someplace where I'm going to have a meeting that might be difficult, or seeing someone and I'm hoping there's an ease in the conversation or relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And just sending the Reiki. Reiki, the podcast. And I can continue to bring this in. And we can continue to talk.
Yeah.
But everybody will get exactly what they need. Everybody will get exactly what it is they need from this, and always do from any Reiki session. The energy knows what to do.
I feel the shift for sure. And I think one cool thing about doing this podcast is that each time that I engage in one of these conversations, with healers, which I love doing, I think that the conversations themselves are merely a way for us to all be raising the vibration, and for the listeners to just be receiving the conscious conversations raises their vibration. So it's happening as long as we're open to it, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I listened to some of your other podcasts and I felt the same way. It's so interesting to hear other people's perspective and experiences. It just it expands consciousness to hear, other stories of people who maybe have arrived at a similar place, but they have had a different path, and they have different perspectives that they're bringing to whatever practice they're using. It's really interesting to hear other people talk about their experiences and share them. I think it's incredible that you're doing this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great resource and platform for people.
Yeah, I love it. It's, I'm not sure exactly how it happened. So I guess I just have to go with, I said yes.
Yeah.
which is often the case. This poet that I love, his name is David White. And he once said in a lecture that I was at, in Irish tradition, once you've been asked something 3 times, you've already said yes. And so I think
I follow that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's led me many places, and I'll ignore the first 2, and then I hear the third, and I'll almost be like, "Ah, really?" And I'll be like, "I have to do this now." But I've met some incredible people that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Yeah, so apparently it's an old Irish tradition. Who knows if it goes back beyond that? But since he said that, I thought, I think he's right. Because there are times when I've gotten something, 55 times and still been like, And
Mm-hmm.
so now I follow, I follow the 3 rule as well.
Yep, it will just keep coming until you listen anyway. So
It does.
it's wise to listen.
It is. So, Caitlin, I'm curious what a session is like because you work most commonly in the distance realm. So, I guess our listeners are perhaps already feeling the power of receiving Reiki from you. But if you want to use some words to describe it a little bit more tangibly, I'd love to hear what a session is like.
Sure, I offer distance sessions over the phone, and for some people, that's a bit of a leap. If I've met people and worked on them, it's usually a little bit easier. But I have clients all over the country and world, and when people, we can call, I usually do phone calls because I find visuals distracting, but some people need that, and it can be a Skype or FaceTime session as well. And what they do is they make sure they're in a quiet, comfortable setting where they can lie down and won't be distracted. I link up to them energetically in the beginning, and that is a partnership process. So it's not just me saying that I'm doing something. They actually have to engage and feel the connection before I start working. I have never had a single person who didn't feel the connection in some way.
Mm.
Um, and then I do my work and I do Reiki. I practice other forms of healing as well. I work in the sacred energetic anatomy. And it's an hour-long session. It is a partnership. I'm not telling someone, this is what you need. They arrive with what they'd like to work on. And together we make a plan for the session and I advise what procedures I think they need. Maybe it's Reiki, maybe it's some other form of healing, maybe it's a combination of everything that I know and what is showing up as best for them at that moment. And we work to get their energy field up to 100%. I douse a bunch of numbers. I have diagnostics for energy anatomy and tools I use, crystals. And by the end of the session, there's definitely a shift. And there's homework for self-care and a plan. And some people I see once and I never see them again. And other people have worked with me for years. And it's whatever is best for them. And if people have a hard time wrapping their head around the distant connection, I do offer free 15-minute mini sessions where we can just try to establish an energetic connection over the phone and do a little bit of work to see if they're able to receive and make the connection.
Mm. Beautiful. I think that's great. And, it certainly suits your lifestyle, which, as you've alluded to, is a bit nomadic these days.
It does. And it's also helpful for other people, if they're in the hospital or they're going to be having a procedure or they're away from home. We're living in a virtual world now, and it's kind of like using a cell phone as opposed to using a landline. If we can connect if we can connect energetically in this way, then it's really easier for everybody. If we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Caitlin, is there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us today before we close?
Yes. So I would just say, if you take nothing else away from this, that energetic self-care is as important as brushing your teeth and bathing and eating. And it's not something that we're typically taught in this culture. I think we're becoming more aware. But I would just advise that people find ways that resonate with them to care for themselves energetically. It will change your life in ways that you can't imagine. And it's very important. So that's my piece of advice.
I love that. And I love this stream of energy that you've been offering throughout the whole podcast, and the infusion of the healing that came through and is still coming through. I'm sure the listeners are going to feel that high vibrational energy for quite a while after they listen to this podcast.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And just really quickly before we forget, your website, Caitlin, is www.caitlinmarino.com, caitlinmarino.com.
Yes, it is. You can find me there.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you so much for your energy and really sharing such beautiful and open parts of yourself with all of our listeners.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening and letting me share my stories.